Good morning, dear aspirants. Welcome to Civil Service School. Today we will learn about economics for civil service from 1st February to 7th February 2021. And special focus will be economic survey 2020 and 21 with one answer writing practice for UPSC CSE. Medium will be English and myself Hemant Sharma. This is my introduction. You can just pause and see it. This is a paid course for answer writing. I will cover both mains GS papers as well as essay paper. One question will be sent daily for 365 days and evaluation and model answers at an interval of 7 days. I will try to cover whole questions for 1 year for UPSC CSE, and if you are a PSC state PCS aspirant, then also you can take this course. And dear students, let me tell you one thing, I won't disappoint you. And if someone of you want to write in Assamese, that means Ohomia, you can write it and just send to me. I will check it. This is our course fee and this is a payment option. Here is the first assignment for you. Define potential GDP and explain its determinants. What are the factors that have been inhibiting India from realizing its potential GDP? This is a question of 10 marks, 150 words, and this came in UPSC CSE 2020 GS paper 3. So this is a question of 10 marks and 150 words. That means you have to write in 2 pages. There will be 2 pages in the exam copy and you have to write within the 2 pages. So define potential GDP. This is a question of objective type and explain its determinants. So whenever you approach this kind of answer, just write answer, define potential GDP. So here is the definition. What is potential GDP? Potential GDP means potential GDP is the GDP which an economy has the ability to produce. An economy has the ability to produce, but has the ability to produce. This is a futuristic term. This is a term of hopefulness. Means this level of GDP can be reached, but because of some factors, this level of GDP is not reached yet. So this is potential GDP, means which an economy has the ability to produce. If we use all the factors of creating GDP efficiently, then perhaps we can reach this potential GDP. Potential GDP is the GDP which an economy has the ability to produce. Second part is explain its determinants. So following are the determinants. Just write here. Following are the determinants. Here you write a few determinants and explain in one line or 2 line. Some determinants are, one determinant is demographic dividend. Do you know one thing, dear students, that Indian economy has 65% of its population below age of 35. That means we have a very young population age group, and if we can utilize this age group for economic development, then our GDP will increase and eventually we will materialize our potential GDP. We will increase our GDP and eventually we can use the potential, we can reach the potential GDP. So demographic dividend is one determinant of potential GDP. Second part is inflation. Higher inflation or lower inflation is not good for an economy. inflation should always be optimum inflation. In Indian economy, our target of inflation is by Reserve Bank of India through its Monetary Policy Committee is 4 plus minus 2%. That means our inflation should hover between 2 and 6%. And this inflation helps in materializing potential GDP. But how? Let me tell you how. Suppose you have rupees 5. Suppose you have rupees 5. Suppose a price of a banana. Suppose price of a banana is rupees 5. And due to inflation, price of banana increases to rupees 7. So GDP increases from 5 to 7. Yes, let me tell you one thing. What does GDP mean? GDP means the face value of all products and services within an economy. The face value of all products and services within an economy. So price of banana increases from 5 to 7 rupees. That means there is an inflation of 2 rupees. And GDP also increased by rupees 2. So 2 is a very high level of inflation. So if there is a high level of inflation in an economy, then it seems that GDP increases. Due to inflation, if there is a high inflation, it seems that GDP is high in the shorter term. If there is a high inflation, means price of all commodities are very high, then we will feel that GDP has increased, because price of all products and services are high, and because of the high inflation we will feel that GDP has increased. But in reality, GDP is not increased at all. That GDP increase is because of the inflation. Suppose inflation is at an optimum level. Suppose price of banana is 5 and now price of banana has increased to 5.1 rupees. There is an increase of 10 paise. So here also GDP increases. GDP increases to 5.1, and this 5.1 increment is because of the inflation. So if due to this inflation GDP increases, but that increase in GDP is not that much of significant like this case. It is not that much of significant like this case. That means due to higher inflation, there is a partial increase of GDP. There will be partial increase of GDP, but in reality scenario will be different. So there, to reach potential GDP, inflation should be at an optimum level, so that increase of GDP is not due to higher inflation. Impact of inflation should be low. Impact of inflation should be less, and there should be really some value addition to the economy, and that value addition should not be because of inflation. That value addition should be real. So inflation should be optimum. And one determinant of potential GDP is capital flow. If there is a capital flow, there will be creation of assets. If there is a, suppose you have 100 rupees, and if you get some capital from some other sources, suppose you have taken a loan from a bank and you have bought a house. Suppose the lending rate of banks are very less, and you have taken another loan, and that means loan means capital flow. There is a flow of capital from banks to you, and suppose you have taken more loan and you have produced you have bought 2 new buildings. Then because of that capital flow, construction there will be construction of building, and with construction of building many things are involved like labor force, and many other things like some businesses, the input cost, all these things are covered. So whenever you buy a new building, new house, there will be a enhancement of GDP, because GDP is the face value of all goods and services produced within an economy. And because of the capital flow from bank, you have bought two new buildings. That means there will be more GDP will be created because of that action. So eventually, so because of that, we will reach potential GDP. Is it clear? So in capital flow, there are some other shareholders also, stakeholders also, like RBI reduce repo rate, then bank reduce their lending rate, and then customers can take more loans, and because of that GDP increase. Government spend money on infrastructure and public investment. Because of that capital flow from government, GDP increases. Clear? Is it clear? So one determinant of potential GDP is employment rate. Employment rate. So if in an economy employment rate is high, that means higher employment rate, that means we are using our human resources efficiently, and this will boost up potential GDP in future. Correct? Is it clear? So etc. These are few determinants of potential GDP. So explain each determinants. And next part is, what are the factors that have been prohibiting India from realizing its potential GDP? What are the factors? Now write here some of the factors which are inhibiting India from realizing its potential GDP are: one factor is global financial crisis. When there is a global financial crisis, businesses earn less money because of the global financial crisis, and eventually GDP will be down because there will be less export and import from countries, and GDP will be down. This is one factor. Second factor is global pandemic of corona. This year, this is a huge cause of global financial impact. Global pandemic of corona. Because of this corona, global economy is doomed today. Export growth is not picking up. Export growth is not picking up. So because of, if export growth, what means, if export growth is to pick up, then demand has to increase in foreign countries of those products which are producing by a country. So if there is a global financial crisis, means countries are not buying products from other countries, then export growth will be less, and if export growth will be less, countries will earn less forex, less foreign exchange, and this will inhibit in realizing its potential GDP. So export is important. And another cause is that financial crisis, financial sector, financial sector crisis. That means NPA, Housing Finance Corporation bankruptcy of Housing Finance Corporation, bankruptcy. So because of this financial crisis, NPA is increasing. If NPA is increasing, then banks will deter their loans. Banks will be hesitant to give more loans to consumers. And if people are not taking loans, people are not receiving any loans from banks, how will they spend money in economy, in creating more assets in the economy? So this will inhibit in realizing potential GDP. So these are some factors. You analyze more and write it down and send it to me. So you people are going to be policy makers in future. So whenever you write any answers, you have to give a solution. In any answer, you have to give a solution, and that solution will be in the form of way forward. You analyze here and write 2-3 causes of how we can realize our potential GDP, how we can increase our GDP. You just write some solutions. So this is an assignment for you. You write and send to me. So this year economic survey says that Indian economy is experiencing a V-shaped recovery. That is, the initially GDP was high. Initially GDP was high. Then there is a low. There is a bottommost level of GDP because of that Corona crisis, because of that Corona pandemic, and then GDP increases. So this is the bottommost point, nadir. This is the nadir of GDP. A V-shaped recovery. India's real GDP is expected to contract by 7.7% in fiscal year 21. Fiscal year means financial year. Fiscal year means financial year. So fiscal year 21 means April 1 to March 31 of 2021. This is fiscal year 21. So India's real GDP, in my last class I have discussed two terms. One is real, one is nominal. So India's real GDP means there is two terms of GDP. One is real GDP, one is nominal GDP. In nominal GDP we consider inflation, but in real GDP we don't consider inflation. India's real GDP, here we are not considering inflation. If we consider inflation, then it will be nominal GDP. India's real GDP is expected to contract by 7.7% in fiscal year 21. That means this year, from 2021 April 1 to 2022 April 1 to March 31 of 2022, our GDP will contract by 7.7% because of this corona, compared to the 4.2% growth in fiscal year 20. In last year, there was a GDP growth rate of 4.2% due to COVID-19 related lockdown. The economy is estimated to grow by 11% in fiscal year 2022. That means from April 1, 2021, fiscal year 22 means April 1, 2022 to March 31, 2023, our GDP will increase by 11%, completing a V-shaped recovery. This statement is very important from mains perspective. Whenever you write any economics answer in GS paper 3, you can give this futuristic, a positive attitude, a conclusion with positive attitude. You can write this statement giving a futuristic positive attitude conclusion. You can write this statement in writing conclusion, because this is a positive attitude conclusion. Our economic survey says that withdraw forbearance once economy recovers. Now we have to know what is forbearance. Let's see this sentence also. A cleanup exercise should be accompanied by mandatory recapitalization based on a thorough evaluation of the capital requirements post an asset quality review. Actually, what happened last year, during Raghuram Rajan's tenure, banks, there was an asset quality review. Asset quality review. Through this asset quality review, after this asset quality review, banks, means whenever this asset quality review going on, then banks reviewed their whole assets, quality of their assets, and after reviewing the quality of their assets, they found that there are lots of non-performing assets in banks. there are lots of non-performing assets in banks. So in my last class I have discussed whenever there is an issue of non-performing asset with banks, what does bank do to compensate that? They keep aside a part of their revenue, they keep aside a part of their annual revenue called provisioning, to compensate that loss, to compensate that non-performing assets. And as a result, what happened? Banks annual revenue decrease, banks annual revenue decrease, banks annual turnover decrease, and banks capital capital banks capital decrease. So because of this asset quality review, there are banks found that they have lots of non-performing assets, and as a result of that, they keep aside a part of their revenue as provisioning to compensate that non-performing assets. As a result, banks' annual turnover and revenue decreases, which result in less capital for banks. And if banks have to survive in this environment, in this competitive environment, banks have to have some capital from other sources. And what are that source? What are those sources? One source is Government of India. One source is Government of India. During last year, Government of India has recapitalized banks to the tunes of 70,000 crore through a scheme called Indradhanush. And this prescription is given by this year economic survey. That means whenever there is a cleanup exercise through asset quality review, there should be mandatory recapitalization. Means recapitalization should be mandatory. Banks have to be recapitalized to meet expectation of the people of the country. And this statement is another one. So withdraw forbearance once economy recovers, but government will recapitalize banks to meet consumers' expectation. But once non-performing assets reduces, once banks become more profitable one, that forbearance, that sympathy towards the banks should be withdrawn. So now I will consider what is this term forbearance. Forbearance means suppose you have taken a loan of 2 lakhs. You have taken a education loan of 2 lakhs from United Bank of India, and you have given mortgage. Mortgage is your own house. Suppose after completing your education, you are unable to get a job through which you can repay the bank. You are unable to get a job. Then what bank will do? Bank will tell you that we are giving you forbearance. That means we are giving you sympathy. That don't return us that 2 lakh rupees now. Instead, you return that 2 lakh rupees after 2 years. That 2 years time is forbearance. Otherwise, what banks will do? Banks can confiscate your own house. Then in one hand, you are not able to repay the 2 lakh rupees to banks. On the other hand, you don't have your own home where you can stay. So what will be the final result? Final result will be, there will be in one hand you won't be able to repay bank, because now you don't have a place to live in. You have to struggle for that also, and because banks took your home from your part. But in that case, banks can give forbearance, banks can give you sympathy, and as a result of that, you will also gain, because after once you start earning, you can repay the bank. Suppose the bank is giving you a 2 years, then 2 years period when you should not return, but you will have to give a higher interest rate in return of that. So that is called forbearance. Means that is a situation of win-win situation. But once you start earning, that forbearance should be withdrawn. That forbearance should not be given. At that time, banks have to take money from you. In Indian economy also, government should show sympathy to the banks to recapitalize them, to reduce their non-performing assets. But once they recover, there should not be no forbearance. Is it clear? So one more thing is that this year's survey says that India is the 5th largest economy, but its investment grade is at the lowest rank, reflecting the economic size and thereby the ability to repay debt. The 5th largest economy has been predominantly rated AAA. This is said by Chief Economic Advisor. Who is our Chief Economic Advisor presently? His name is Krishnamurthy Subramanian. India is the 5th largest economy. India is 5th largest economy in terms of nominal GDP. In my previous slide also I said there are 3 types of GDP. One GDP is real GDP. One GDP is nominal GDP. In nominal GDP, we will consider inflation. That means real GDP plus inflation. Real GDP plus inflation is equal to nominal GDP. There is one more type of GDP, and that GDP is called GDP in terms of purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity. So what is purchasing power parity? Suppose you are living in India and you are earning a sum of rupees 50. Suppose your friend is living in USA. Your friend is living in USA and he is getting a sum of rupees 100. With this 50 rupees, you want to buy Maggi, that 10 rupees packet Maggi. Then you will get how many packets? 5 packets. 5 packets. Suppose in USA, price of a 1 packet of Maggi is 25 rupees. 25 rupees. Then how many packets of Maggi he will get? He will get 4 packets of Maggi. So purchasing power of this rupees 50 is higher than purchasing power of this rupees 100 in USA. So in terms of purchasing power parity, so if we consider GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, your friend in USA is poorer than you. Your friend in USA is poorer than you, because his purchasing power is less than you, although you are earning less amount of money in India. Is it correct? Is it clear? So in terms of purchasing power parity, India's position is 3rd worldwide. First is China, second US, third India, fourth Japan, fifth is Germany. So what happened? India is 5th largest economy. 5th largest economy in terms of India is 5th largest economy in terms of this nominal GDP. And this is the easiest calculation of calculating GDP in terms of nominal GDP. Then we don't have to subtract inflation. Whatever is the current price, that will be treated as nominal GDP. Suppose the price of my laptop, is 50,000 rupees. That is the nominal GDP. Suppose inflation is 4%. Inflation is 4%. Then the real GDP will be 50,000 minus 4% of this 50,000. 4% of 50,000. So this is real GDP. So in nominal GDP, we don't need to calculate much. We just see the face value of a product and service, and then we just calculate nominal GDP. India is fifth largest economy, but it's investment grade. What is investment grade? You guys may know your CIBIL score. Based on this CIBIL score, you can get loan from banks. Suppose your CIBIL score is good. Suppose this CIBIL score is called credit score. Credit score. It means how credit worthiness you are. Means how people can trust you. Suppose you have taken rupees 500 from me, and you have promised me that you will return this money within 10 days, but you are not returning this money after 15 days also. Then your credit score with respect to me will be lowered, will decrease. And this CIBIL score, credit score, is same as investment grade of a company or a country. Correct? But its investment grade is at the lowest rank. So how does this investment rate influence? How does it affect countries? Suppose investment grade of a country is lower, that means his credit score is lower, that means his CIBIL score is lower. We don't consider CIBIL in case of company and government. Here I am giving just an analogy. So his investment grade is lower, means if that country wants to borrow money from other fund, suppose India wants to borrow money from some provident fund or pension fund from Japan, then they will consider our credit score, they will consider our investment grade. If our investment grade is good, if our investment grade is better, higher, then they will be more willing to lend us money. If our investment grade is less, they will be hesitant to lend us money. Or if they lend us money, then interest rate will be higher for us. So investment grade is very important, very much important for a company or a nation. So India is fifth largest economy. India is a very big country, very largest economy, but investment grade is at the lowest rank. Our investment grade is very lowest rank. There are three companies which provide investment grade. One is S&P Standard and Poor's. S&P Standard and Poor's. One is Moody's and one is Fitch Rating. These companies provide investment grade of a sovereign nation. As per S&P, our investment grade is BBB negative. That means stable investment grade. As per Moody's, our investment grade is Baa3. Negative growth, that means negative. And as per Fitch, our investment grade is BBB minus, negative. A security has an investment grade rating if it has a rating that falls within the range of AAA and Baa3 from Moody's. So as per Moody's, we are at the lowest rank. AAA to Baa3. Then this country is invest, means others can invest in that country if investment grade is within this range. That means AAA to Baa3. If investment grade is within this range, that means other country or other fund can invest in that country, in security, bond, treasury bill of that country from Moody's. In case of Moody's, our investment grade is Baa3. That means we are at the bottommost point of investment ready nation. We are at the bottommost point of investment ready nation. That means we are at the lowest point. Or the AAA to BBB for Standard and Poor's. Here our rating is BBB negative. That means S&P don't consider our country as investment ready. As per S&P, we can't repay our debt. We can repay our debt. So other countries or other sovereign funds should not invest in our country. They should not buy securities, G-Sec, treasury bills, etc. from our country. So this is actually a contentious issue. This is actually a political issue also. Most of these companies, S&P, Moody's, Fitch, are American companies. So they don't give better rating for developing countries. They give better rating for developed countries. So developing countries are distasteful of these rating agencies. But for that we need our own rating agencies. China has their own rating agencies. We have some rating agencies like India Ratings, Crisil, CRISIL, India Ratings, Crisil Ratings. We have these own rating agencies, but acceptance of India Ratings or Crisil Ratings is not worldwide. Worldwide, they are not accepted. Worldwide, power is in the hands of developing countries, in the hands of developed countries, in the hands of wealthy nations. So they consider credit rating of these companies, these American companies. So as a result, our own Indian companies or Chinese companies ratings are not considered globally. So we have to depend on these companies, and this is a contentious issue. And during the 2008 global recession, S&P was giving a very high rating to Lehman Brothers, which was a which was the first company to collapse in 2008 global recession. So their prediction was totally wrong. That means their prediction was wrong. So their investment grade assigned by these companies are not foolproof. So this is a contentious issue. So chief economic advisor was saying this. It suggested an increase in public spending from 1% to 2.5 to 3% of GDP as envisaged in the National Health Policy 2017 can decrease the OOPE, that means out of pocket expenditure, from 65% to 30% of overall healthcare spend. You can very much use this line in main answer writing. Because in India, out of pocket expenditure for medical emergencies, for healthcare is very high, and because of this, many people fall below poverty line. Many people goes into poverty, and that's why this economic survey suggests an increase in public spending from 1% to 2.5 to 3% of GDP. Increase in public spending in healthcare from 1% to 2.5 to 3% of GDP, and this is also envisaged in National Health Policy 2017. That means increase healthcare spending from 1% to 2.5 to 3% of GDP to reduce out-of-pocket expenditure of people, of household, so that they can increase their lifestyle. They need not to fall below poverty line because of some medical emergencies. India must keep its focus on economic growth rather than trying to alleviate inequality. In India, there is a huge inequality, income inequality. The rich are earning more and poor are earning less. Poor are gradually earning less and rich are gradually earning more. It argues that given India's current stage of development, redistribution of wealth is not feasible without growing the overall pie. Survey suggests that we should rather consider increasing our GDP bigger and bigger, and eventually there will be some trickle down impact. There will be some trickle down impact on everyone, and eventually everyone will uplift. So don't means rather than trying to alleviate inequality, we should focus on economic growth. This is a prescription from this year economic survey, and whatever is said in economic survey, we can quote this in an exam. In this survey, there is a index. That index is called bare necessities index in the economic survey 2020 and 21. Poorer states have reduced the gap with rich states in providing citizens with access to the basics of daily life. What are those basics of daily life? One is housing, water, power, sanitation, cooking, gas, according to a new bare necessities index in the economic survey 2020 and 21. That means poorer states are improving. Poorer states are reducing the gap with richer states. And this index, this is a question from prelims perspective. This index ranges from 0 to 1. 1 means the best access to, and quality of housing. What are those parameters which are considered? Quality of housing, kitchen, toilet, drinking water, waste discharge facilities, clean cooking fuel, and a disease-free environment. These are the parameters which are considered. This is a question from prelims perspective, and this bare necessities index, this can come in both prelims as well as mains, and you can put this sentence in both prelims and mains. This is a statement of hopefulness. Means we are hopeful. We have seen some positive sign in our economy. The share of agriculture in GDP has reached almost 20%. Almost 20%. Previously, this was around 14 to 17%. Share of agriculture in GDP. It hovers around 14 to 17%. But last year, share of agriculture in GDP has reached almost 20% for the first time in the last 17 years, making it the sole bright spot in GDP performance during 2020 and 21, according to the Economic Survey 2020 and 21. The Economic Survey seems to privilege wealth creation over reduction of income disparity. That means this year Economic Survey wants more wealth creation rather than reducing income disparity. Correct? They think that this year Economic Survey thinks that if we create more wealth, there will be some trickle down impact on everyone, and eventually income disparity will reduce. This is a news. This is a recent news actually. SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. This is a what? This is a capital market regulator. You just Google it. You Google it and see everything about SEBI. There may be some questions in prelims related to SEBI. SEBI finds NSE, National Stock Exchange. It is located in Mumbai. SEBI finds National Stock Exchange former managing directors in co-location case. But what is this co-location case? Stock trading happened all over India. Correct? Suppose you are sitting in Guwahati, you are sitting in Bhubaneswar, you are sitting in Jammu and Kashmir, but you can buy, sell stocks instantly. For that, there should have been some servers, internet servers. From that servers, you can buy and sell stocks. So, in case of India, not only India, whatever stock exchanges are there, Wall Street, Nasdaq, NSE, BSE, whatever stock exchanges are there, most of the brokerage houses have their servers, have their internet servers within a vicinity of those stock exchanges to get better speed. To get what? Better speed. If servers are within the vicinity of those stock exchanges, then internet transactions will be speedier, transactions will be faster, and there are means you are buying or selling stocks within a nanosecond. So if servers are within the location of that stock exchange, then these transactions will be swifter, and in that case you can do more real-time transactions. You can do real-time transactions more efficiently. So in case of SEBI finds NSE because there are some anomalies in allocating these spaces to different brokerage firms. There SEBI have seen some favoritism amongst the MDs in allocating space to these brokerage houses in locating their servers within the vicinity of NSE. That's why SEBI finds all these MDs. So, dear students, if you have any question, you just send it to me. I will check those. And if you want to take the paid course, you can take it. I will come up with more video lectures for economics in future. Thank you, dear students.